I once read a quote that said, "Great minds talk about ideas, average minds talk about events, and small minds talk about people." It's a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, and over the years, I have basically realized that this is quite true. And there's a lot of variations on this quote online. You can look it up. And it's one of the reasons why I'm always investing in going to masterminds and events, even traveling all the way to LA for these every 6 months. And why I think it's so important to invest in yourself, because it gives you so much inspiration. So in this podcast episode, I'm going to talk about how I've invested in myself, how much I've been investing in myself, my business over the years, and maybe why you should consider investing in yourself, events, masterminds, and the likes as well. Okay, let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to Fail to Win, the show where we love to make mistakes and learn from them so you can turn your passion into profits and live life on your own terms. I'm Amy van der Putten from FastForwardAmy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode with simple strategies every Tuesday. It's quite funny because the preparation for this podcast is written on my Remarkable. I actually wrote all of this down while I was on the plane flying back from Italy with my family. And the preparation, everything I wrote down is basically just a bunch of quotes. There's this quote about, if your plant isn't growing, it might just mean that it doesn't have enough sunshine. You need to change the environment. I needed to look up that quote and I forgot. I have another quote. If you're the smartest person in the room, get into a different room. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'm sure you've heard of these stereotypical quotes, but I don't know if you've actually ever fully realized how true these are. So this is a totally unhinged Delulu episode. I'm just talking to you like you're my friend. And I know a lot of people think it's really weird how much money I always invest in myself, in masterminds, and how much time I make for these. But I truly believe that for me, as well as for my clients, continuing to basically drown myself in environments like these is one of the reasons why I've achieved quite some success at a fairly young age. So for example, for me, whenever I come back from LA, I go there every 6 months for a mastermind with my mentor and peers. Every time I'm in LA, I just get so inspired by how much bigger people think there. And there's a lot in the American culture that I don't love, if I'm being honest. There's a lot there for me that's a bit too much. I don't know. It doesn't always feel genuine to me. But what feels really genuine to me and what I love and why I always keep going back is when you're in LA, you get these feelings kind of like in Dubai where you feel like anything is possible. And when I'm in Belgium, for example, I often feel like there's a little bit of a break on my system. It's like I get these ideas, but I always feel weird about having ideas. And it might be because I'm in the wrong rooms in Belgium. And this is no disrespect to my friends or my family, because I have amazing friends and family. And I also have fellow masterminders and entrepreneurs here. But it's just that ever since I was 5 or 6 years old, I felt like I'm the weird one. I think differently than other people. And the fact that you are here listening to this episode tells me that maybe you're the same. And so as I grew older, my mom was always saying, oh, when you go to, the next level of school, you'll find more people who are like you. And then when that didn't happen in middle school, was like, oh, when you go to high school, you'll find more people who are like you. And although I have some really good friends from those times in my life, I never truly felt like middle school, high school, college, university, whatever the names are in English, I never really felt like I found my environment until I ended up in masterminds where I met other women who just play a really big fucking game. And it has inspired me so much so that the last time I was in LA, I went to an event. It cost me like between $100 and $200. And I got so inspired sitting in that room. And I saw people on stage speaking, and I was sitting in the audience. And I kind of had this really frank discussion with myself. And I was like, what they're talking about on stage is something I could be talking about. But you don't have the experience they have. And, let's be really honest. I told myself literally like, hey, okay, let's be really honest. What's the difference between you and the people on the stage? And I realized the difference between me and the people on the stage is that they're on stage and I'm in the audience. So I challenged myself after that. Like, if you want to be on stage, you got to build your own stage. So I literally flew home, told my team, hey guys, we're going to be hosting an event because I want to have this impact and inspiration on people. Right now, we're already gearing up for our second big event. It's happening in June. Invites have, let me check the calendar because obviously I pre-record. Oh, invites have just gone out. So yeah, if you're interested in my event, by the way, it's going to be happening in Antwerp in June. It's a 1-day fully inspirational event. Feel free to DM me event25 on Instagram. So event25, all one word, on Instagram, and I'll send you the link so you can grab your ticket. But so for me, the main reason why I invest about $50K a year on masterminds, travel, all of that stuff is because it basically forces me to level up, because I am surrounded by people who play a bigger game, and I love being the stupidest person in a room. Can I say that? So sometimes in my life, I've had these phases where I felt like I was the smartest person in the room. And again, I feel like I have to disclaim this entire episode. No disrespect to my environment, but I just, you have people who love surrounding themselves with people who are minions, or you have people who love surrounding themselves with fellow leaders. And I love surrounding myself with fellow leaders. My friendships, my team, I love hiring people who are smarter than I am so I can learn from them, so they can force me to level up. And the quote really hit home for me, the quote that I shared with you in the introduction of this episode, because over the past years, throughout the course of investing over $200K in my self-development through masterminds, coaching, events, all of that, I've also 2 years ago made a decision to stop drinking, more or less. I rarely drink alcohol anymore. And I used to be the girl who was in brand pictures with bottles of champagne and wine, or I was drinking wine while going live, having little wine chats. I've shared this a little bit before. It's not that there was a problem with alcohol. It's just that I have a problem with alcohol in the sense that I don't like the way it makes my body and my mind feel. I get anxiety afterwards. Even after one glass of wine, apparently my liver is just not good with alcohol. Even after one glass of wine, the next day, I just feel like shit. And I've made such huge level ups in my health in these past couple of years that 2 years ago, I just had a look at my habits, my drinking habits, and was like, well, there's quite a lot of alcohol. Let's have a look if, what happens if this is not here. And what I realized when I stopped drinking is that sometimes, and this is going to be very unpopular, but sometimes I drink because I'm bored in certain environments. And the environments where I get bored is usually the environments where people talk about other people. But when I'm in an environment where people talk about ideas, I'm not bored and I don't really need alcohol. I don't know if this sounds really weird when I share it that way, but I've just really noticed that I love being in environments where I get pushed to be bigger, where I get inspired by people who've done things I haven't done before. And when I look at my fellow, like at the people I coach, I've noticed the same happening to them. I've seen people enter my masterminds, enter my coaching programs, and go into deep friendships with each other who have forced each other to level up, be it not giving up in a launch or leveling up your health. It's kind of like when you're sitting at a table and everyone around you eats crap, you might be tempted to just join along and also eat crap. Versus when you're sitting at a table and everyone makes healthy choices, you're going to feel like it's going to be much easier to make healthy choices too. So I recently, I was actually hosting a virtual business coaching retreat, and I shared the 5 bottlenecks. I'm going to actually whip that Canva file open. I shared the 5 bottlenecks that keep you small and that keep your mindset small. It was about fear of failure, perfectionism. We all know, postponing stuff. But one of the things that I shared is one of the 5 biggest mindset blocks is that you feel like your environment doesn't support you or people don't understand you, so you make yourself smaller. It might be that you currently want to start your own business, but you keep postponing it because your partner or your in-laws think it's a really weird idea. Or you want to make stories. I've had this happen where I want to work on content or make stories, but I feel awkward about the people surrounding me. And what I've noticed with everyone I coach and in my own life as well is that quote of you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with really is true. And if you look at Newton's first law, there's Newton's first law, I also have this in my slides, is about objects in motion stay in motion. So imagine you have all of these wires hanging from a ceiling and there's a bunch of balls attached to it and everything, and it was not dirty, and all of those wires and the balls are hanging there. Everything is just still. You can imagine that if you go to the outer end and you take one of those balls and you whack it against the other balls, they will start moving. And then the ball at the end will move back and all of the balls will start moving. It will become like you're on a swing, right? So the more you move, the easier it will be to stay in motion. And the same thing goes when you start working out. I often don't feel like working out until I'm working out. I often don't feel like podcasting until I'm podcasting. I often don't feel like working until I'm working. Stuff like that. Cooking, same goes. Like I'm always like, oh shit, do I have to cook? I have a housekeeper who cooks for me as well. But when I have to cook, I'm like, oh, do I really need to? And then I start chopping the vegetables and I realize, oh, I quite like this. So objects in motion stay in motion. Newton's first law states that an object in rest will stay in rest unless there's an external force, exuding force on it. But what this also means is that imagine you want to stop those balls from moving, you would need quite some force to stop them. But for a lot of people, their environment is that negative force that stops the motion. It's someone making fun of you for not drinking. It's someone making fun of you for posting the stories that you felt uncomfortable with, but you were proud of for posting. So your environment, in my opinion, can make or break everything. Earlier today, I had a really vulnerable moment because I have a tax audit, fiscal audit happening, and I got an email about the date and when it's happening, and it's brought back some fears from my childhood about money and the government and stuff like that. And although I don't actually have a lot to fear from that audit, it just brought it all up for me. So I noticed that happening, and, I could call up a friend who would freak out with me, or I could do what I did, and that's, I messaged my dad, but my dad wasn't available, so I called my boyfriend, and I was like, hey, do you have a second? Everything's fine, but I'm having a minor freak out, and I need you to talk me through this. So he just took 10 minutes to reframe this as like, what a great opportunity that this is happening for you, because now you can use this as a case study for your clients who are going through the same thing, because you haven't had this type of audit. And remember the last audit you had 6 months ago, it went really, really well. And it actually unlocked a bunch of superpowers because you were so well prepared. And he talked me through it in a way that after I hung up, I was like, okay, now I'll go and podcast, because I had 2 podcasts on the plan for today. Versus, I've been in relationships before where my partner would have freaked out with me or not been able to comfort me. And now my partner actually encourages me to become stronger and better when something like this happens. So I think when you don't feel supported in your environment, it might be time to maybe let go of some people, which is what I've done over the past couple of years, but also just add some new people in. And this is why I love investing in masterminds and facilitating masterminds myself. I've created masterminds not simply because I wanted to teach my clients the things I've learned over the years, but also because I've wanted to create an environment where you are surrounded by other powerful CEOs who are going through what you are going through and who will push you to become better, but also make you feel less alone in what you're going through. And this is why I've created my Self-Made Millionaire Mastermind and why I've created my Gold Mastermind. If you're curious, by the way, and you want to chat to me about which one might be a better fit, the one and the other, like there's 2 different types of investments, and the one has retreats and the other one has physical workshops 1 day long. The Gold Mastermind might be a little bit of a better fit if it's more difficult for you to leave home, for example, or it's also a smaller investment. But if you want to talk about it and you want to see which of these masterminds might be a great fit for you, which environment you would thrive in, and while having me as your mentor, but also surround yourself with other people, feel free to just DM me self-made on Instagram. If you DM me self-made, then I'll know that you're a CEO who wants to surround herself with other powerful CEOs, including myself, and that you want to grow this year. And I'd love to talk to you. I host personal calls with everyone who DMs me and who might be a fit for the mastermind. I'll talk to you personally because it's one of my superpowers. I haven't talked about this a lot, but one of my superpowers really is bringing the right people together so that you can actually make friends for life in these masterminds, level up your business, and stop feeling like you're all alone in everything you're dealing with, be that a fiscal audit or a launch or problems with your team. So just DM me self-made, all one word, on Instagram. This is not automated. And then just let's chat and hop on a call to see if you might be a really great fit. So if I can conclude all of this, is that in the past couple of years, I've spent around $50K a year on my self-development. But even before I started making a lot of money, I remember investing $250 a month in a coach. And everyone around me thought it was a really stupid idea. And they were like, why would you spend that kind of money? You could use that money for something else. You don't have any savings. But I knew at the time, and this is crucial, I simply knew that with what I had caused the problems in my life, which was at the time no self-care, no time for myself, fully booked calendar, but almost nearing burnout, I knew that with the same information I'd created these problems, I couldn't get out of these. And I started looking up, what do the most successful, wealthiest people in the world do? And I noticed that all of these multimillionaires, super fit and happy and wealthy people. Of course, success is different for everyone, so you can't always know what's going on behind closed doors, but the typical famous names. I looked it up, and what I noticed is that none of them did it alone. They were all surrounded by other power players, mentors, coaches, masterminders, peers who helped them level up faster than they could have leveled up by themselves. And so this is why I'm such a huge fan of masterminds. Now, my masterminds are 5-figure investments. If you're currently like, holy shit, Amy, you are right. This has just motivated me. I need to go outside more. I need to change my environment. By the way, changing your environment could also be changing up the way your office looks. Stuff like that. I want to invite you to my new Imperfect event happening this June. And if you want to be there, simply go and grab your ticket quickly, because we have some pre-order and early bird tickets going out at special prices and discounts. I'm handing out bonuses to the first people who sign up, because obviously I need to pay for all of the expenses for the event. I'm trying to keep the investment for these events as small as possible, so we get to break even and we make sure that it's an incredible day for you. So you won't be able to grab tickets for an event like this anywhere else at this price range, if I'm being honest. All you need to go to my Instagram and DM me the word event25, all one word, so event25, or go to fastforwardamy.com/event25, the link, and I'll add it to the description of this episode. I hope you'll be there. Last time, there were people crying. There were people saying that they used the vibe and the inspiration from the event, and it lasted them 3 months. They were high in a good way, because they got so much inspiration and action from it. Because being surrounded by 300 people or more, hopefully, fingers crossed, my target is 500 people, in a room where you can just feel the energy vibrating, where you see speakers who confront you with your biggest mindset blocks, with the actions you aren't taking, is just it's going to charge you with energy so that you'll take more action than ever before in the next 6 months of the year. So I hope you'll be there. Go to the link in the description, go and grab your tickets. And before I forget, because I've noticed that there's typical bottlenecks between, there's a really big difference between people who make 100K a year or less versus people who make $1 million or more. I've noticed this in the masterminds I'm a part of, but also in the masterminds I facilitate and in my clients who grow really quickly versus clients who might grow a bit slower. And it's often because they stay stuck because they keep doing tasks that are valued at 100K a year versus at 1 million. And if you want to grab my guide, I've made a full list of tasks that you should stop doing and start doing depending on the niche you're in, on which sector you're in. So I've made a list for people in e-commerce, for people who are in hospitality, for people who are in, online business like I am. So if you are in business and you feel stuck, it might be because you're still doing the things that are keeping you stuck versus scaling. And I want to gift you this guide. It doesn't matter if you get to one of my masterminds or my event. I don't care. I'm going to give this to you for free. This is my CEO bottleneck guide. And it's going to teach you the difference between 100K a year tasks versus 1 million a year tasks. All you need to do is simply DM me the word bottleneck, all one word, on Instagram on FastForwardAmy, or go to the link in the description of this episode, okay? Good luck, and I hope that you'll consider investing a bit more in yourself too this year. Maybe, one of my masterminds, an event, just buying that ebook that you've been wanting to buy, or a course, and just go for it, because I know you've got this, and don't feel weird about not being able to do it alone. None of the people you look up to went there alone, okay? You don't have to do it alone. I always tell my clients, you can give birth alone, but why would you? It's so much easier if you are surrounded by other people who can help you. So stop making life so difficult. Start getting into smarter rooms. You're going to feel yourself fast forward. Good luck, and talk to you next week, Tuesday.